Hello and welcome to this AQA GCSE drama revision video. In this video we will be looking at section B of the written examination, which is the study of set text. At the beginning of the section B of the exam there will be a printed extract, and today I'm going to be talking about the play Things I Know to Be True, which is one of the set plays. So what you want to do is go through and read the extract and really make sure that you understand the extract within the context of the wider play. So if you'd like to go ahead and just pause the video and read this extract here. Now, once you've read the extract, it's really important that you actually understand the question being asked of you. And today I'm going to be talking about the 8-mark question, which is the second question in this part of the exam. So here it is. You are performing the role of Fran. Describe how you would use your vocal and physical skills to perform the line below and explain the effects you want to create. Then back to the phone. It's Mum. Rosie's just walked in. I know, but she's here. Something's happened. And this is an 8-mark question. So this question will always be focusing on how you would perform one line from that extract that you've just read. And it's worth 8 marks in total. Now, it's really important that you understand the command words in the question, and the 2 command words are to describe and explain. And for this question, to describe is to set out the characteristics. So it's to go through and to talk about all of those vocal and physical skills specifically. And to explain is to set out the purposes or the reasons. So the describe really is what you're doing, how you're using your acting skills, your vocal and physical skills. And the explain is why you're doing that. What's the effect that you're trying to create to the audience? So what effects are you trying to create? So you want to think about actually every time you're acting, every time you're writing about your acting, how are you trying to change the audience, or what impression or effect are you trying to change for the audience? So maybe you're trying to show her need to gather her whole family together in times of uncertainty. Perhaps to convey that Fran is talking on the phone to Mark and is responding to him. To convey her anxiety and concern fueled by Rosie's unplanned arrival. To communicate her desire to take control of the situation. To convey how well she knows her children, as she knows something has happened before Rosie has even admitted it. To convey her worry and her pessimistic attitude, always assuming the worst. Or to convey her role as the emotional core of the family. So these are just some examples of the effect that you might be trying to create in portraying Fran. You might have different ideas, you might have one of these ideas, you might have a few of these ideas, but you need to be specific about when you're acting, what effect are you trying to create, and that should really come across throughout your response. So we're talking about vocal and physical skills. Here's just some of the skills that you might refer to. So in terms of your vocal interpretation of Fran, you might refer to her accent, the use of emphasis, pace and rhythm, pause, pitch, quality, resonance, tone or volume. Then you also will be wanting to think about your physical interpretation of the character, the use of body language, eye contact, facial expression, gait, gesture, pace, quality of movement, space and levels, any specialist skills, and the use of physical tension. So these are just some of the things that you can refer to throughout your response. And it's really important that when you're revising for this question, you really understand what all of these words mean so you can use them and think about them in your response. So just to recap the 8-mark question, you're performing the role of Fran. Describe how you would use your vocal and physical skills to perform the line below and explain the effects you want to create. And the stage direction is then back to the phone. It's Mum. Rosie's just walked in. I know, but she's here. Something's happened. So let's think about what we need to do to take our ideas and to structure those ideas into a written response. So it's really important that you work through the line logically. So start with the beginning of the line. How are you going to act those first few words? Then the middle of the line and then the end of the line. And it just makes it kind of more straightforward and easy to understand. And you want to include descriptions of how you would use these vocal and physical skills. Now, I'm often asked how many sort of vocal and physical skills should I refer to? There's not really a precise answer to that question, because you might refer to a few but in great detail, and you might refer to loads in slightly less detail. So I just like the number 6. It's a nice round number. I think for an 8-mark question, you can talk about maybe 3 vocal and 3 physical skills in nice detail, but it's quite an arbitrary number. You can do more or less. It doesn't really matter. It's more about the quality of your response and the level of detail that you put into your response. And I'll kind of talk about this a little bit more in a moment. And then it's important that you explain each point you make, showing your understanding of the play and the character relationships. So it's one thing to describe, to say what you're doing, but for everything that you say you're going to do, you need to say why you're doing that. How is that going to help with your portrayal of Fran? How is that going to help with the effects that you are trying to create for the audience? So in my response, I've coloured the descriptions in red and the explanations in orange, and it just will make it really explicit where I'm describing and where I'm explaining. Remember, we need to do both in order to fulfil the demands of the question. So let's bring it together with some exemplar responses now. In this scene, Rosie has just returned home from her travels. Her arrival is unexpected by her family. This is reinforced by Fran's immediate action of calling Rose's brothers and sister to let them know. Despite Fran's initial surprise, it is clear to the audience that she anticipated Rose's earlier arrival. I would aim to convey this to the audience through the use of both my vocal and physical skills when portraying Fran's character. Firstly, I would use a low pitch and quiet volume when saying she's here, as though confiding in the recipient of the phone call, furthering this impression through a strained tone before contrasting this with a decisive something's happened. The confident tone and quick pace with which I would say the final sentence would imply that they have previously discussed Rosie's travelling situation whilst she has been absent, and additionally depict their close family relationship. This, paired with a louder volume, as though making sure that Rosie can hear, would allow the opportunity for the actor playing Rosie to interact with Fran's character, despite her conversation being with someone else. A pause between walked in and I know would show that I was waiting for a reply from the receiving end of the phone call. These vocal techniques would enable the audience to immerse themselves in the play, believing the character's family connections and creating the effect of Fran as an overprotective mother. Furthermore, I would use my physical skills to develop my portrayal further. When speaking the first part of the line, I would turn my back away from the actor playing Rosie, emphasising the hushed tones in which I speak, once again implying that the topic of Rosie's return has been discussed before. To accompany this, I would bend my shoulders inwards and cradle the phone to further the impression of secrecy. When I then speak louder so that Rosie can also hear, I would walk towards her using strong, purposeful strides, my eyes slightly narrowed and my lips pursed in concentration, as though trying to figure out what has caused her sudden return. Through my use of movement, I would intend to create the image of a caring mother who has spent so much of her life raising her children that this behaviour is automatic, not only building her character, but also enabling the relationship between her and Rosie to become clear. Overall, my chosen skills would imply the close relationship which is presented between the family at the beginning of the play, and more specifically, Fran's role as a caring and devoted mother. So within this response here, you will notice that the student has decided to kind of separate the vocal and physical skills and essentially talk about the vocal skills in the first paragraph and the physical skills in the second paragraph. Now, this is one way to approach this question. You might find it easier to talk about the vocal and physical skills at the same time. So I'm going to read you another response now where the vocal and physical skills are spoken about together. When performing the role of Fran, I would use my vocal and physical skills to create the effect that she is shocked by Rosie's arrival, but also suspicious about why she has returned home. I would also want to portray Fran as a perceptive mother and make this a comedic moment for the audience. When saying, "It's Mum," I would speak in a loud and clear voice and look at the ground to show my focus on the phone call and my desire for the person at the other end to understand me. At the same time, I would put my spare hand on my hip to show that I'm becoming impatient. Furthermore, I would speak with a surprised tone of voice when saying, "Rosie's just walked in," as well as raising and lowering my pitch when saying "just walked in," as it shows that I am still shocked that Rosie is home. When saying, "I know, but she's here," I would slow down my pace and emphasise "she's here," as it would highlight the reason she is calling and that she is still shocked by the news. At the same time, I would raise my hand to the level of my head and then quickly move it down in a stuttered manner in time with "she's here." Finally, when "something's happened," I would lower my volume and pitch and slow down my pace and look at Rosie with crossed arms in suspicion to show she knows the reason Rosie has come home without her even saying anything. This would help depict Fran as very perceptive while also being funny to the audience. So as you can see in this student's response here, we've got the vocal skills and the physical skills being spoken about at the same time. So we've got the lowering the volume and pitch and slowing it down, and then you've got the kind of physical skills of the crossed arms and suspicion. What's really clear through both of these responses is the fact that there is a real kind of high quality of description, and that's all the writing in red, so describing how they're using these performance skills, and then everything they've said they've backed up with their explanation, and that's the text that's in orange. So think about this as you're responding to the 8-mark question. Thank you and good luck.